We're going to talk about that stadium in Hobart. We see the only Liberal leader in the country now in a bit of trouble over his support for it. Give us some perspective. What is so wrong with building this stadium in Hobart?
Laura, this is hugely controversial down here. And in fact, on Saturday, there were thousands attended a rally outside State Parliament House, many thousands protesting against it. In essence, we have a proposal here for a stadium that most Tasmanians, they don't need, they don't want, and they can't afford. We've already got two good AFL stadiums in Tasmania. We've got UTAS Stadium in Launceston, we've got Bunston on the Eastern Shore here in Hobart. At both of those stadiums, we already play AFL games, and they are very, very rarely filled to capacity. But despite all of that, we have on the table a proposal for a stadium which the government says will cost a little over $700 million. The engineers I talk to say by the time you put a roof on it, it'll be well over $1 billion. That would be the third stadium in a state of a little over 500,000 people. So you can see why people are saying, well, what's going on here? Why on earth would we spend so much money when we have so many more pressing problems to address? It really beggars belief. And I think it really goes to really quite bullying behaviour by the AFL, who somewhere along the line sort of plucked out of nowhere this a precondition for us getting an AFL team is that we had to have a third stadium. The second in Hobart, which incidentally will only have 3,000 more seats than the other stadium, which is within eyesight across the river.
Right, so you think the AFL, Gil McLachlan has basically bullied the state government there?
Oh, absolutely. The AFL have said if you don't build a third stadium, you won't get a licence for a team. I mean, I would characterise that as bullying behaviour, and I lament the fact that the state government has rolled over, and I lament the fact that the federal government, for reasons I find unfathomable, is prepared to tip in $65 million to upgrade the Launceston Stadium and $240 million toward the cost of this third stadium, the second stadium in Hobart. I don't know what Albo's thinking there. I tell you what.
Why can't you do both, Andrew Wilkie? Why can't you do both? Because, I mean, on that logic, if the Sydney Opera House was being proposed to be built today, it probably never would have been built. I note there was objection when the new Adelaide Oval was built. Now, South Australia has just had this hugely successful gather round in the AFL. Yes, they're unpopular when you first start to build them, but essentially they become massive community assets, don't they?
Well, you gave the example of the Sydney Opera House. What's being proposed in Hobart right now would be like building a second Sydney Opera House across the harbour at Kirribilli.
Well, it is delightful. We could have two.
well, that's what's been proposed down here. Look, Bunston Arena has 20,000 seats. It's a lovely venue. You can play Aussie rules there. You can play cricket. The Ashes have had a test there, and that's just across the river on the eastern shore. What the government's proposing is building another stadium on the western shore of the Derwent River within eyesight of the other stadium, and it probably won't have a roof because the budget that's on the table isn't enough for a roof, and it will only have 3,000 more seats. I mean, everyone in Hobart is just shaking their head thinking, what are some of these politicians smoking when they think this is a good idea, and that it's a good idea to do it right now when Tasmania has a health and housing crisis, and think it's a good idea to do it at Macquarie Point. I mean, this is the largest brownfield site in any Australian capital city. It's a priceless bit of real estate, and they want to shove a footy field on top of it.
Okay, well, it sounds like it is not the end of that particular issue. Andrew Wilkie, thanks for your time on the program this morning.
Thanks so much, Laura.